Hey there, Mr. Jumbo. Will you share with me the jambalaya living in your soul? Oh, I'm so happy. Oh, I'm so overjoyed and happy. Oh, man. Oh. Oh. Israel in shambles. Zionists in shambles. Because Professor Dave done did a video. A streaming from Phoebe. Aria! What's up, Aria? Hi, hello. Hey there, Mr. Jumbo, out there with the lions and bears. Do you ever get scared? It's so good to see you. It's good to see you too. So I am super excited for when enough people get in here because I always try to go hard against Zionism and the Israeli genocide and their constant expansionism and imperialism and shit. I try to go as hard against that as I can whenever I'm doing my content. And I like to promote other creators that are also bringing awareness to the genocide of the Palestinians or to the constant incursions by Israel against all of their neighboring countries. And I'm super excited to get into it today because one of my favorite creators released a whole, like 2 hour long video absolutely dismantling one of Israel's most valuable and most watched, defenders, basically, and apologists. So I'm so excited for that. Cannot wait for enough people to get in here for us to start talking about stuff. Hello, Ozzy. Hello, welcome, greetings. Hopefully we'll get enough people in here. You know, some people are saying that YouTube is suppressing that Professor Dave video. I don't know that they necessarily are, but I guess we'll see. I mean, if they suppress this video, we might know, because that might indicate that there's something about the title that it doesn't like, and there's nothing objectionable in the title, so it should go out to as many people as it normally goes out to. What are we excited about? We are excited about the Professor Dave video that just dropped today called, are you ready for this? It's a simple 3-word title. Destiny Loves Genocide. And it's true, Destiny, he does love genocide. That is actually true. Hello, Jax. Hello and welcome, everyone. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button. It really does help. It helps send the stream out to more people and get the notification delivered. So please do that if you don't mind. Trans, is the because you're scared? Because you shouldn't be scared. That is one hell of a title. Wait till you see the thumbnail. You think that's one hell of a title? Wait till you see the damn thumbnail. Okay. I don't know if I'll... Okay, there we go, yeah. Look at this fucking thumbnail. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love it, I love it. Professor Dave, you are a genius, a gentleman, and a scholar. Look at that shit. Above Destiny's ragged looking face, it just says, more dead babies, please, which is objectively what, Destiny wants to see happen in the Israel-Palestine conflict. He wants to maximize the amount of dead babies and minimize the possibilities of peace. I think that's a pretty accurate and fair summation of how Destiny feels. Okay. And while we talk about this stuff tonight, we've got some Jack Down Home Punch to enjoy while we cover the content. I don't know, I might actually cover a little bit of this video just to push it out there. So I think I'm going to watch a little bit of this video with you guys, just to kind of, throw it out there and kind of maybe encourage some of y'all to go watch it. We'll watch like 5 minutes of it, and then if you guys think that it's worth watching more, then you can watch the rest. But yeah, so Professor Dave, earlier today, released a video. So far it's got 280,000 views, 33,000 likes, 19,000 comments. It's at Professor Dave Explains if you're interested in watching. It's called Destiny Loves Genocide. Destiny has been one of Israel's most valuable defenders throughout their genocide campaign and throughout their recent imperialist incursions into their neighbors, and even through the Iran War. And he is also one of their most highly viewed defenders. If Israel is going to put out a position and have a bunch of people believe it and spread it online, they're going to have Destiny talk about it first, basically, is the way it goes. He is a complete monster when it comes to the matter of genocide in Gaza. A complete monster. He may be progressive in a number of other ways, but he is ultimately, at his core, a monster when it comes to the genocide, most importantly, and a complete DNC shill that does not blame the Democrats when they put up bad candidates. So, given those two things that we know about Destiny that make him kind of an awful figure to have to deal with, let us watch this Professor Dave video. Now, the first thing I'm going to do before we get into that is I'm actually going to switch over to subs only mode, so you'll still be able to chat. You just have to sign up for, you just have to hit the sub button. You don't have to sign up for anything or pay anything. You just have to hit that button and you will be able to continue chatting. This is just to make sure that the chat remains legible and readable while we go through like I said, I'm just going to go through the first 5 minutes of this video, and if you guys like it, I will link it in the chat after we're done with the segment, and you guys can go watch some more of it if you want. Also, please don't spam. Even if you're spamming nice things, please just don't. It makes the chat really hard to read.
Hey everyone, as you know, I'm a science communicator who explains science and debunks science-denying frauds. Quite the Venn diagram exists between anti-science propaganda, predatory capitalism, Christian nationalism, and Zionism, which means I end up bringing up Israel from time to time. Zionists hate that, so they attack me constantly, like what happened recently with a guy named Destiny. Let's talk about him.
Alright, before he gets into that, I'm gonna take a quick, just give me 1 second.
AKA Destiny he's a media personality who takes to defending liberal and progressive viewpoints on most political topics. He sounds smart enough when debunking Maga talking points, and if that's all he ever did, you'd be hearing nothing negative about him from me. But that activity is dramatically overshadowed by his unrelenting Zionism and support for the never-ending parade of human rights violations being perpetrated by the
Professor Dave is exactly right about this. One of the main reasons why Destiny is kind of starting to lose people, or at least is starting to go from gaining people because he was interesting and compelling to gaining people because he's controversial, and losing some of the people that used to watch him, is because a lot of people started watching Destiny because he was really good and effective at dismantling MAGA talking points and pointing out the fallacies of the Republican Party and people on the right. And he has slowly but surely, in my opinion, due to his attachment to Zionism, he has rightified himself in a number of really important ways. And one of those ways we talked about a minute ago with the utter and complete uncritical support of the DNC, no matter how bad their candidate is. And another thing is his complete relentless Zionism. Both of those things are making him kind of untenable in the mind of a lot of progressives, because most progressives at this point on the ground, like ground level regular people, progressives, most progressives understand that Israel is committing a genocide, that they have been for 2 years, and that they are constantly doing incursions onto all their neighbors.
Ethno-state that is Israel. Whether he is being paid by Israel or is genuinely just dumb enough to have fallen for Israeli propaganda and is in too deep now to admit it, I can't say. But he recently decided
I think he's being paid.
Nest by doing a particularly slanderous live stream about me, accusing me of being a Jew-hating neo-Nazi. It's called Professor Dave Goes Mask Off. And the thumbnail says, "These fucking Zionists," where Zionists is covering the word Jews, implying that I really just hate all Jews. In it, he's reacting to my...
By the way, Professor Dave has very much the same stance on this that I do, just to clarify. I have no problem with Jewish people, and in fact, when people come in my chat with anti-Semitic canards, I am the first person to point out how bullshit that is, how wrong it is to associate every Jewish person with the project of Zionism, how fucked up and mean that is, and rude, and how just assumptive and presumptuous that is. So, like, he's got my same position on that. He recognizes that there are an abundance of Jewish people who do not feel this way, that just because someone is Jewish does not necessarily align them with Israel or Zionism, that just because someone happens to belong to that ethnic group does not necessarily mean they're going to agree with anything that Israel is doing or anything that the Zionists want to do. So the idea that people are going around trying to call Professor Dave like an anti-Semite is fucking hilarious. It's also hilarious, as Dave points out in this video, because the real anti-Semites are, of course, Israel and the Zionists.
In most recent video exposing Avi Loeb, the astrophysicist and charlatan, in which, amidst breaking down his endless lies about science, I point out yet again in passing his ties to the Zionist lobby and how he employs Zionist tactics of gaslighting and playing the victim to deflect when his fraudulence is exposed. I'll just play you Destiny's intro stinger to his video so you can get a sense of it. The blatant manipulation, opportunism, and perpetual victim complex is par for the course when dealing with disgusting Zionist frauds like that. Anyway... Science as much as they want, and if anyone exposes those lies, they're automatically an anti-Semite. What the hell? This guy reaches so hard. Holy shit, he's obsessed. I'm not sure if you noticed, but the whole world despises your ideology. The world knows your gaslighting and your Hasbara tactics. Shouting anti-Semitism and everyone that hurts your feelings is just going to instantly minimize tenfold. So give it up, you worthless Zionist pile of shit. And I didn't mention Judaism.
I think it's hilarious that Destiny's rich ass, privileged as he is, can sit around laughing at the obviously true criticisms of somebody like Professor Dave talking about how obvious it is that Avi Loeb is a paid shill for the state of Israel, how obvious it is that he is promoting anti-science viewpoints that are probably meant to destabilize America, and Destiny's ass could just sit there and laugh through that because he is operating from such an insane place of privilege that he doesn't even know how to make his brain relate to the plight of a Palestinian mother. He doesn't have that ability anymore. I don't know if he ever did.
Get a grip. This kind of like rhetoric right here, you go, no, you don't. This is Nazism right here, right? Deception and victimization are like the two key pillars of kind of neo-Nazi belief. It's the idea that Jews are secretly behind the scenes controlling everything to deceive you, and they deceive you about that.
That's not what Professor Dave ever fucking said. Professor Dave never said that Jewish people are in the background controlling everything. He said that there's Zionists and Israeli politicians who have been able to get an undeserved and untoward amount of power in particularly a few Western European governments and the American government. Not the entire world, nor are all Jewish people indicted by the actions of Israel or the actions of Zionists, unless you are some kind of crazy anti-Semite that thinks that every Jewish person is necessarily a Zionist or that every Jewish person is necessarily a supporter of Israel. Sounds kind of anti-Semitic to me. It kind of sounds like you're making broad assumptions about an entire ethnicity of people. It's hard being trans. Me too, Stoner. Hope you okay. Hey, I appreciate the $2. Yeah, for sure. I'm doing great. Yeah. Once again, we are watching. We're about halfway through what we're going to watch. We're only going to watch like 5 minutes of it. This is a video on at Professor Dave Explains channel called Destiny Loves Genocide. I really want you guys to go watch this video after we're done and after we're done streaming and stuff, because he lays out the case so much better than I could ever hope to on one of these little vertical lives.
Self-victimization as they constantly harp about the Holocaust. Oh my God, we get it. The reason why they have to harp about the Holocaust is because they have to center their victimhood so that they have an infinite blank check, basically, to deceive you and to control society. It's kind of crazy to just, but whatever.
Yes, he is literally calling me a Nazi. Deconstructing this farce will come at the end of this video, but we have a lot of context to set up and information to get through first. Honestly, so many people have asked me to make a video formally summarizing my stance on Israel, and this was an excuse to do it, while also highlighting what a douche this guy is. Beyond his nauseating defense of Israel, he also has some really bizarre skeletons in his closet that I was able to come across. Hornet's nest, remember? But we will get back to him in due time. Now, many of you are aware that this is not the first time I've been harassed and slandered by Zionists, not by a long shot. Right after the genocide began, for several months I was spending way too much time on Twitter, relentlessly combating Zionist propaganda being
I want to point out something too, because it's been pointed out a few times in Professor Dave's comment section. Like, yes, this is something America has done for a long time, and maybe it is a little hypocritical for people to not point that out, but I think it's just kind of an obvious, consequence of an American making this kind of content. Of course, like, Americans aren't going to notice this kind of thing as much when we're doing it to other people as we will when it's done to us, right? But America has, for decades now, engaged in what are called astroturf campaigns, right? And the idea behind an astroturf campaign is that you create a bunch of fake enthusiasm around a certain position, right? In the modern world, in the way it normally happens today, that is normally online through bot farms and paid influencers, but it's happened all throughout history in different forms, right? Or at least throughout, recorded capitalist history, and I'm sure that there are different forms of it that happened in older societies as well. But it doesn't just happen online. It can also happen in the form of, like, you've heard of the phrase paid protesters. That kind of thing is actually very rare when it comes to leftist ideas. But when it comes to hard right fascist bullshit, that is actually pretty common. And it takes other forms as well, and America has engaged in it for a long time with a bunch of different countries. That doesn't make it okay for Israel to do it. I also oppose America implementing its surveillance state across the whole world and attempting to sway the politics and influence the politics of different places that we don't have any outright or obvious stake in or involvement with that would give us that kind of leniency. I think it's obvious and important to point that out, right? It's very important to point that out, that I'm pretty sure Professor Dave would probably agree with me here if he were sitting here with me, or if I could get him on Discord or something. I bet he would say, yeah, of course, obviously I oppose America doing that same thing. Obviously. That should go without saying, because Professor Dave has a moral compass. And you can trust him to believe the same thing on Wednesday that he believed on Tuesday.
Of paid influencers whose job it was to brainwash the masses and manufacture consent for genocide. You've never seen propaganda anywhere in your life like what was being vomited up at that time. A fabrication of 40 beheaded babies, which Joe Biden himself publicly claimed to have seen photographic evidence of, only to later walk back and admit that no such evidence exists, since it's not a thing that happened.
Yeah, no, literally bullshit claims purely advanced to give Israel an excuse to engage in further genocide and degradation and death.
Seen photographic evidence of, only to later walk back and admit that no such evidence exists, since it's not a thing that happened.
Hold on one second. Which gender are you moving to? I've been living as a woman for 6 years now. I don't feel like I'm moving to anything at this point. I feel like I am pretty confident in my femininity.
Claims of a baby being cooked in an oven, endless claims of rape, when in fact it is Israel that systematically rapes Palestinian prisoners in the most brutal manner imaginable. A behind-the-scenes clip of...
There have literally been reports, by the way, of Israeli soldiers having dogs grape prisoners. I'm not even kidding. There are believable reports that have come out of Gaza and the West Bank and these black sites where Israel is holding these people, of Israeli soldiers literally molesting these people with dogs. Which is, by the way, a tactic that they probably learned from us. The CIA are the ones who originally kind of pushed that tactic out there in the world. Not just that tactic, tons of modern torture tactics descend directly from CIA teachings that have been handed out like candy, basically, to all of the world's worst combatants. The Mujahideen, which would later come to be known under the substantially less stylish name, the Taliban, or Al-Qaeda, depending on which groups you're looking at, were not only armed by the United States under the Reagan administration, but were actively trained in the art of torture and confession elicitation. I think it is solicitation. Sorry, that's the word. Confession solicitation by the CIA. Before that, the security services of Egypt, when we helped to fuck around with their government and subvert their democratically elected government with our own Western-backed power, they were also taught how to torture people, and were given basically CIA training in the art of confession solicitation and torture and mutilation of all different kinds. And these tactics have been taught by successive generations of people to more and more human beings throughout the ages. So I would not be surprised in the least little bit if the IDF got that little fucking chestnut from us here in America.
A Lebanese short film used to claim that Palestinians were faking the war crimes against them, yielding the birth of the disgusting term Pallywood. Claims of immense networks of Hamas bases underneath hospitals to justify the bombing of every single hospital in Gaza, only to provide zero evidence of such bases after the fact, except a few planted guns several hours after entering, and a list of terrorists that was really a calendar.
Yeah, that's the thing. Every single time, and I think that's about what we'll watch of that video. We might watch a few, maybe a minute more, but we're getting to the end of what we'll watch on this channel. But that's the thing about the IDF and the Israeli government, is every single time they claim one of these hospitals housed a bunch of Hamas terrorists, number one, they constantly upsell the threat that Hamas poses. They constantly upsell the threat that they pose. And number two, the proof that they provide is, in many cases, non-existent, but in the cases where they do provide it, it's always way less than whatever they were claiming they were going to find. So if they said that it was like a manufacturing facility for Qassam rockets or something, all they're going to fucking post a picture of, if they post a picture of anything, are going to be some guns that could have easily been planted. Some guns that could just, like, literally, there could be a crate of like 500 different types of guns that they bring out every time they need to stage a new propaganda photo. We know that there are militaries that have done this in the past. We know the Israeli government has done this kind of propaganda in its past, so why believe them now? But even when they do provide evidence, my point is, it's never commensurate with the threat they were describing that they claimed justified their war crime. By the way, just so we're clear, Hamas is no threat to America, to Israel, or to really anybody besides people in Gaza, frankly. And the main way that that threat will best be dealt with is not through bombs, missiles, drones, or anything like that. It's literally just rebuilding and giving people better avenues for policing and the maintaining of their buildings and the building up of their society than Hamas. It basically involves the exact opposite of the strategy that Israel has been engaging in. We know here in America from a long period of 50 years of doing it, many, many, many people here in America will tell you what I'm about to tell you. Fucking with a people over a long period of time with missiles, bombs, tanks, and other forms of military munitions does not cause them to make themselves amenable to your cause. It causes them to harden their hearts and rally together, often with the worst but most extreme people in their society, the people who are offering the most extreme solution. People under stress are not the best decision makers. In fact, they tend to be some of the worst. It reminds me of that line from The Green Mile. Maybe you guys have never seen that movie, but you should watch it. There's a scene in there where the main dude, played by Tom Hanks, is trying to explain to Percy Wetmore, this shithead, just awful officer, and it takes place on a death row unit. And he's trying to explain, Paul is, to Percy why exactly he needs to take his job seriously and why he needs to not aggravate the inmates and why he needs to treat them like human beings. And he says, you need to understand the type of pressure these men are under. Men under pressure can snap, hurt themselves, hurt other people. I remember how he starts the sentence too, because it's important to understand the scene. He starts the sentence off by saying, you need to really change how you look at this place. You need to look at this place less as a death camp and more of you need to look at this place less as an execution chamber and more like a mental asylum. And when Paul explains why, Percy just says, and I think that's the mentality of many of the people in chat, you know how I see this place? I look at it as a bucket of piss to drown rats in. And I feel like that is the type of inhumanity I'm dealing with in this chat right now. Anyway, I'm going to play just a minute or two more of this video, and then we will, I'll post the link.
In the form of social media activity that was viewed by many millions of people. Endless dehumanizing rhetoric to garner support from the West for a totally pre-planned campaign of ethnic cleansing and land theft. At any rate, influencers were being paid to disseminate the narratives that the state had settled on each day. I was shitting all over these disgusting frauds day and night for several months, and the wrong people noticed. So they dogpiled on me and got my account suspended. People often note that you can find some really egregious anti-Semitism on social media, so my tweets must have been even worse than those of actual Nazis in order to merit suspension. But those people are very confused. Zionists love anti-Semites. They quietly celebrate their presence on social media because their existence fuels Israel's victimization narrative. Israel can bomb anything they want, shoot any child in the head, steal any land, but they will always continue to be the victims. Scary anti-Semites who want all Jews to die, whether a particular instance being referenced is real or not, are a key facet of this narrative. So that's not what gets targeted for suspension. What gets targeted is anyone who is effectively combating and exposing the state-sponsored Hasbara narratives, which I was doing with a passion. So I was
right. From the and by the way, and so that's the last I'm going to play of the video because I don't want to spoil the whole thing. And I like Professor Dave. I want to send some people over to his channel. So that's all we'll watch of the video here on this channel tonight. But yeah, that is, for the record, a tactic that Israel and like the Zionist project has used for a long time. they will literally embed themselves into different social media platforms and different like avenues of public expression and make advocacy against Israel one of the things that is punished. It's probably why this video went up to like 250 and then has dropped down to like 30 people hanging out. Not that I don't mind hanging out with you 30. I'm glad that you guys are here, but I think there's a reason why I've been talking about Israel and the Iran war a lot in the last few days, and for some reason YouTube is just not letting the views stick at their normal 100, 150 or whatever, right? I think there's a reason for that, and I think it's because people with this mindset and with like the Zionist project in mind have been able to infiltrate pretty much every major social media network. I don't even know what Tyler is talking about or who Tyler is talking to. I feel like Tyler might be just talking to themselves, maybe? Yeah, Tyler's in his own little world. That's kind of how I feel about it, too. Got a notification. Okay, so sorry, I had to respond to a message. Anyway, let's see here. Why did General George Patton say we fought the wrong enemy? My first question. Oh, because George Patton was a racist, like anti-Semitic, Jew-hating piece of shit who was only glad to participate in World War II because he was glad at the promise of getting to kill people. Doesn't mean he didn't help us win the war. He did. But that's kind of like in spite of his personal leanings, not because of them. Do y'all think that if whales had hats, they would wear them in their blowholes or on their foreheads? Foreheads for sure. Whales are smart, so they wouldn't want to cover up their blowholes. Besides, every time they came up for water, or I'm sorry, came up for air, they would blow their little hat off. So I think they would wear it on their foreheads with a little strap around their neck. Can I get a Hail Satan? Hail Satan! Yeah, sure. Now, to be fair, if somebody asks for a praise Jesus, I might say that too. Though I'll probably say it in a funnier voice and with less enthusiasm. That's crazy work? Oh. Well, let me do it again. Hail Satan! That's interesting. I was just Googling to see if there were any, like, particular phrases or hails associated with like any of the popular satanic movements, but I guess you're just supposed to come up with your own. Shows you how much I know. Yeah, the fact that Tyler C is now saying anyone else is confused is like really hilarious when you realize that Tyler has spent like the last, I don't know, what is it, like 30 minutes? Yeah, the last 35 minutes talking to himself about nothing. By the way, here in about 25 minutes, I'm going to switch it over to a members only live chat. If you would like to continue participating in the chat at that time, you'll have to make sure you're signed up for a membership, or that you're a mod, one way or the other. Why do you smoke so much? I don't. I usually smoke a lot more than I do throughout my day in when I'm streaming. So, why do I smoke so much on stream? I guess because it's a creative, how do I put it? It's conducive to creativity. You got a bug on your chair? Yeah, probably. There are big holes in the screens on the windows out here because, kitty. Phoebe, you should create a podcast called Under the Bridge due to all the trolls that visit the chat. Oh my god, that's actually genius. Yeah, that is actually genius. I mean, I basically kind of already, I don't know, I don't know what makes a podcast anymore. I really don't, because for a long time a podcast was like an audio show that had an optional visual element. But now it seems like the idea of a podcast having to have an audio only version available is kind of going away. So does what I do here count as a podcast? I don't know. I don't think so, because it's a lot more chat interactive, so I feel like it would fit into a different thing. But also, I feel like anything I do is probably going to be chat interactive unless I'm doing like video essays. So, which I do plan to start doing. But, that I can understand. Like if I write a whole script and I'm just going to perform that script, then yeah, I don't want chat distracting me. But if I'm doing this kind of thing where I'm having like a spontaneous conversation that goes from topic to topic, especially if it's going to invoke the trolls, I feel like it would be weird to not have chat interaction. So I don't know, maybe for a long time now, I've been calling my desktop streams Vibe Check, but I did look it up, and technically there is a D&D focused podcast that uses that as their name. So Under the Bridge could actually be cool, especially because it could also kind of imply, the dirty kid history of the last kind of 5 years of my life. I smoke more when you are on stream too. Perhaps I should examine this. I feel like I'm just everybody's smoke sesh, basically. I'm like everybody's smoking buddy, and I feel like that's okay. I feel like that's valid. Where's my Trump emoji? Maybe I will create some emojis making fun of Trump and open them up for members only. That could be a good way to offer my members a little extra value. Come up with 4 Trump-themed emojis. One that's like a close-up of the nunt. One that is, that really unflattering photo of him where you can see the exact line of his makeup. How does your family feel about your transition? They range from, not understanding to accepting, basically. I've got a couple of family members that are like insistent on misgendering me and misnaming me, and dead naming me and shit. But it's like, I don't have to deal with them that often anyway, and I get to feel nice and superior because I know that I'm being the bigger person by continuing to have any sort of relationship with them whatsoever. So I get to feel magnanimous, and it almost makes it, like, the dynamic that exists now between me and those people honestly makes it a lot easier for me to deal with them and to not get pissed at the things they say and to not get, like, for example, one of them is my grandmother on my mom's side, and me and her used to go round and round even before I came out as trans, because I think we're very similar types of people in a lot of ways, but she kind of stopped, like, putting in the full effort of research whenever Google summaries came out, which has been happening a lot longer than AI has existed. Like, Google search summaries have been around for a while. And basically, since the advent of the ready-made search engine, she has gotten worse and worse at researching things. She doesn't, like, she's not stupid by any means, but she does believe some things that are not founded on reality, or that are maybe founded on an older understanding of things that you just can't prove anything to her because she's belligerent like that. But I feel like I get along with her better now, ironically, even though I feel this kind of pervasive separation, because I kind of feel like I'm dealing with somebody who's like maybe a little lead-addled, pretty old, doesn't really have the ability, or maybe has the ability but doesn't really have like all the faculties needed to look everything up and to understand what they're talking about. So I just don't, like, the things that she used to say that would cause us to get into arguments no longer get us into arguments. If I do want to suggest that things might be different, and it's beautiful because the last time that I interacted with her in person, it was just recently when I went up to Missouri. I think I was actually able, for the first time in my life, to basically figure out how to tell her something and say, you're wrong on this, basically, without getting us into a fight. So I thought that was progress. And maybe eventually she'll come around on understanding trans people and understanding me and stuff. And, I guess I can only hope for that day. It doesn't really bother me, though, that we don't have, like, a tight, close-knit relationship, because, like, like I said, we always kind of had problems getting along anyway, so it's like, be nice, but as a historian, I can tell you the witchy history is mostly men that are threatened by women who refuse to gender conform. That is super ironic. That is, like, deeply ironic to me, especially considering how gender non-conforming so many witchy women are, But I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that fact is ironic to me. It is a fact, but it's also just kind of ironic. Let's see. It's Yo Boy. I feel bad for anyone watching this and staying in here. I'm so bored listening to this crap. LOL, you'll never have a big channel. See ya. Let's see. Channel activity. Joined 4 years ago. 0 subscribers. So, first chat was, well, it's nice of you spelled just the letter, to stream and share your opinions in all caps for some reason. Let's see here. All opinions, this person did not see anything in person, therefore, just like the rest of us, doesn't actually know anything. Oh, so you're an Israeli simp. Gotcha. So you think I'll never have a big channel because you're an Israeli simp who's probably paid by Israel or a figment of some Zionist who's literally out here to, like, control the narrative and push things certain ways. Your description says, just your average guy making content, but you've never uploaded a goddamn thing. You have what looks like an AI-generated icon as your profile picture. Yeah, you know what? Somehow I don't feel that... I just don't feel that bothered by what that person said. I just can't get it in me to be bothered by that. Okay, little guy. Maybe you're right. But you know who's not in a position to know that? You with 0 subs. Nah, people do it for the love of the game. I think, I think some people do it for the love of the game. But tons of people are paid to disseminate that kind of shit through bot farms. It's not like bot farms are free to operate. It's not like they're volunteer run. There's not an evil in the modern world in the commission of which money does not have a part. Do you have a husband or wife? No, I don't. No, I'm single. Sorry, I was just trying to like read the comments and see what people were talking about, but you guys are all over the place. The good Tyler and Jess are talking about Satanism. Kayla's asking, I guess, if I'm single or something. I don't know. SS Smith is saying, well, someone got triggered. I don't even know who they're talking about. Somebody saying they're an Israeli bot. I don't know, dude. I feel like chat has gotten to that point once again where it's not producing much of value. Hello, Hope. Have you seen the Anthropic bot slicing machine, that box slicing machine that cuts off the spines and destroys the books? book splicing. Book slicing. What? Book slicing. I was just kidding, Jess. I'm just messing with you guys. Sorry if that sounded mean. Where is Kitty? Oh, she's around. Let's see. I have not seen those Anthropic book slicing machines, I guess. No, I have not. Although, it's not surprising to me that these robotics companies are trying their best to develop something that can manipulate boxes and packages. I would love to do a debate with one of these people in a trial-like setting on the war crimes of Israel. You just need a judge. Oh my god, that would be great. Why couldn't I be the judge? Like, why couldn't I be the judge? Or maybe I could get somebody who's like a fence rider to be the judge. Maybe I could get goat versus fish to be the judge. If he can help apportion between goat and fish, perhaps he can apportion between war crime and no war crime. It's a bit heavier than the work he is typically accustomed to doing, but I think I shall make the offer. It's my best goat versus fish impression. There's an AI company that's buying up antique books, cutting them up, scanning them, and burning them afterwards. What? Okay, so we got an article from Tom's Hardware. AI companies are reportedly shredding millions of books after using them to train AI models. Tech giants outsource to middlemen to secretly buy up books for training material. Having contributed to the growing shortage of memory and storage, AI companies seemingly have a new target on their sights: humanity's literary history. A recent investigative report from 404 Media reveals that these companies are reportedly purchasing millions of secondhand books through intermediaries to source high-quality training data for their AI models, avoiding public backlash. AI relies on vast amounts of data to advance, but not just any data. It has to be high-quality data. The problem is that mediocre AI-generated content, commonly referred to as AI slop, has proliferated across the internet. This type of content contaminates the data pool and is counterproductive for AI to train on. As a result, leading AI companies have turned to human-authored sources for knowledge, specifically print sources that predate 2022 and are more likely to contain original, uncontaminated content. There is precedent for AI companies turning to physical books for training AI. For instance, Anthropic, one of the leading AI companies involved in a lawsuit, reportedly invested millions of dollars in extracting information from countless printed books to build its Claude AI models and then destroying them. The company bought books from Better World Books. Although the court decision affirmed that using books for AI training falls under fair use and copyright law, Anthropic faced a staggering $1.5 billion fine for maintaining a repository of 7 million pirated books that infringed the copyrights of authors and publishers. Similarly, a coalition of publishers recently filed a lawsuit against Google, accusing the tech giant of allegedly and illegally using millions of copyrighted books to develop its Gemini AI models. Huh. Well, that's fucked. I don't have any problem with AI models being trained on books. What I have a problem with is the destruction of literature. I kind of feel like literature is as close to a sacred dispensation as we're ever going to get. And the idea that you would ever burn a book, without a really good reason is just kind of insane to me. And the only reason they burned these books was because it would have been more inefficient and would have taken them longer to preserve the books in a state of readability. They would have had to build some other machine. They would have had to make they would have either had to make some kind of robot that could flip through the pages and do a scan, which wouldn't have been that expensive. Probably would have taken a few more years though. But they didn't want to do that. They just built some machine that, you scan in a certain, I don't even want to imagine how it works, but it probably just, from what I was just reading and what you guys have described in chats, it sounds like it cuts the spines off and then has like a system of rollers basically to scan the pages through a rotary scanner or a plate scanner with rollers on it to transfer the paper across or whatever. Either way, the fact that they did that in furtherance of being first to the bat with this technology is disgusting. There's yet another reason why, even if capitalism can produce innovation, we really should look for other systems that can produce innovation while also maintaining accountability. Because this shit is fucked. That's fucked. And another reason why they did it was to avoid copyright. Literally, to avoid having to pay out licenses for every book they used. To avoid even having to negotiate that. These fuckers. Fuckers, man. I can't believe I just read that. Man, I guess be careful who you sell a book to. God damn. Oh my god. Shocked by automated book burning? Yeah, kinda. Not gonna lie, yes. A little bit. It's typically something that requires human intervention. The fact that we've made a tool that automates it and turns it into training data for AI models, never to be reproduced, is kind of like fucked and nightmarish. I think it's one thing to violate the copyright. That's still fucked and depraved and capitalist, but to literally cut up the books so they're unusable and burn them afterwards to just decrease the likelihood that people will be able to educate themselves outside of your fucking model. It just seems so grim and villainous on the face of it. Yet another reason why AI technology needs to be nationalized, and developments of that sort, I don't know, dude. I feel like developments of that sort should only be allowed after a very thorough vetting process, and there should be public accountability at every fucking stage. But I mean, it feels like such a fucking pipe dream to advocate for public accountability in any regard these days, and I get that. Whatever, maybe I'm just a utopian, but fuck. Gourd. Gourd. What, Jess? You don't believe in gourd? You're not a gourd believer? I believe in the pumpkin myself. I think the great pumpkin has my back. It's funny because people have made fun of Brett for saying gourd so much that he basically says gad at this point. He says it like gad sad. Gad. Or gad. Gad. Gourd. I wonder if gourd happened because Brett was trying to say God and Lord at the same time. Because it's been a while since we've heard a true gourd out of Brett. Do you believe in God? Who do you believe in? I'm an atheist. I don't see any compelling reason to believe in any of the gods that have been described by the many different religious movements that have existed throughout the last, however many years we've been doing that shit. Kind of hard to tell, actually. One of the interesting things about human beings, and one of the things I would love to ask Forrest Valkai next time I catch him doing an episode of The Line, is like, when do you think human beings started this? Like, how long do you think we've been doing this? And do you think there are any other animals that exhibit this behavior? Not because I think it would prove anything about, like, the nature of these religions or the veracity of their truths, but because I don't think there is. But I think it would explain a lot about why we arrive at religious frameworks in the first place. But from what I know, religion is something that existed before the agricultural revolution, but not that long before. In other words, it was not long after we started congregating in the same places year after year to worship or to do rituals or whatever we were doing back then. It was not long after that we started doing agriculture. And it was actually probably, from what I've read, but there's another thing I'd like to ask about, I've heard that it was that it was probably a shared process. That basically people would meet in the same area year after year for religious purposes. Or what we assume were religious purposes. And because they were eating like the same foods, they would drop like these seeds, and when they would come back throughout like harvest season and stuff like that, they would favor larger plants and kind of started passively, selectively breeding things without even knowing it. No, I don't pray every night or at all. Just because people have used Doesn't Brett also say Dorn instead of Dawn? He does. He does indeed. Just because people have used religion to control people doesn't mean a God doesn't exist. It just means people are bad. Yeah, I don't think a God exists because I don't see any evidence for one. I don't think that people being bad means that God doesn't exist. I think God doesn't exist because, well, I don't see any evidence that he does. You know? Like, everything about the world that people want to explain with God can be explained without God. So I'm just like, you know, I withhold judgment. I wonder if my question in the Arc Discord ever got answered. I'm gonna check that real quick. Yes, they did. They sure did. I wonder if there's anyone in here who's watched my appearance with Brett Keane. Because that video has over 1,000 views now, which implies that some of you guys might have watched it. So what would proof that God doesn't exist look like? Like, that's the thing. It's an unfalsifiable hypothesis. The very nature of the hypothesis is that it is unfalsifiable, which is one of the big problems with it, right? It's one of the big red flags with religious ideology, is that they are expecting you to believe something for which there is no evidence, partly because there is no evidence for it. Listen, if there is solid, reputable, irrefutable proof for God, then why does every single religious conversation with a Christian, a Muslim, a Jewish person, a Hindu, anybody else that believes in gods, why do they every single one of them break down and turn into philosophical gobbledygook whenever the matter of proof is brought up? Like, if there's something to it, then why every single time a religious person or somebody that's defending religion or whatever is asked for proof, why do they always have to delve into philosophy and argumentation and apologetics? Why don't they just say, oh, well, it's, because this and this thing, that if you do it, you can repeat it, and every single time you get the same result, and it wouldn't be possible. Like, the only way you can explain it is that there must be a divine creator who has a, some manner of will that they exercise over the world. But that's the thing. In order to prove that, right, that's a huge burden of proof. That's like an immense burden of proof. So the very idea of being able to come up with one test that could prove for that in itself is kind of mind-boggling. And that's why the most informed and honest biblical scholars and church fathers will tell you the pursuit of proof for God is for atheists and the doubters. It is for those who, like Thomas, doubt the word of Jesus. If you don't wish to be a doubting Thomas, you must believe on the basis of faith. You know, so I don't know, man. Your attempts to prove God fall just disastrously short, and they reveal the lack of conviction in your heart. Have you ever felt loved? Oh yeah, I feel loved right now. Hello, Matt. Hello, Matt. I genuinely believe that that on scene in young Sheldon with his mom and him was the best proof for a God, that being the force of gravity, being just so that it holds our universe together. But we don't really know if that's true. That was one of the things that I rolled my eyes at whenever I saw that in Young Sheldon. That's a point that's often made, and it wasn't made first by the writers of Young Sheldon. I believe it's actually a Ray Comfort line originally, or maybe a Kent Hovind line. I can't remember exactly. But there's some apologeticists who was famous for saying that for a long time. And we don't know that that's true. It could very well be that a number of different gravity constants would work for life, that it maybe would have just evolved in a different way. We don't really know that, and we don't really have any good way to test it either. Not only that, but even if that were true, even if that necessarily meant that there was someone with a plan or something with a plan that created it, that would not necessarily prove that it is the God of Abraham. That would not necessarily prove that it was one person or one personable being. That would not necessarily prove that that being had any intention here on earth. That would not necessarily prove that that being had any interest in its creation whatsoever. That's why I always, want to bring up what a high burden of proof it takes to actually prove God, because I want to get through to people who are still firm believers. And whatever, if you're not a believer who's trying to legislate your religion, I really am not worried about you, okay? But I really do want to get through to believers who feel like they need to be bigoted because the Bible tells them to be, or they need to be conservative because they think the Bible tells them that they have to be, right? I really want to get through to those people that the Bible is a bogus book that is not good at reflecting a modern moral code, and that there is no evidence, and I don't even think there is a possible test that could prove the existence of the Christian God, because you're asking too much. You're asking, basically, not because, I can conceive of a number of tests, or a number of tests which in tandem might come together to mean, okay, well, there might have been a creative force involved here somewhere. But none of them are going to prove the intentionality of that being. That would be a whole other spectrum of tests. And none of them are going to prove the nature of that being. That's going to be a whole new suite of tests. None of them are going to prove the limits of its power. Could it be that it literally just had the rules, just had the ability to set the rules, but had no influence over how things actually occurred? Could it be that it's just like a spontaneous world-generating machine that some 12-year-old in another universe is using to, and, we're just living in the product of their imagination on a machine somewhere? These are all things that could be possible, and we have no way of knowing them. And even if we could prove some element of it, it would not prove all of the other things that religious people are asking for whenever they want to convert you or legislate on the basis of their faith. I sent some bad news to you earlier. Oh joy. What's next? The watchmaker argument? I know, right? I'm also going to turn on members only mode. We got enough members in here to make it fun. You guys keep participating if you're a member, and if you're not, sign up for the membership. It'll make you able to send chats still. It's very cheap. My bad. Have you ever loved someone? Yes. Yes, I have. Have you seen the movie Whale? The ties between the gay main character and the missionary was so anti-LGBTQ and pro-church. I have not. I'll have to look into it. Actually, that's interesting. You're talking about The Whale? I'm gonna have to look into that because I didn't realize that there might be a religious subplot to that. Because it could be that you're interpreting it correctly, but you could also be misinterpreting it. Tons of anti-religious messages have been misconstrued to be pro-religious by the faithful. There are Protestants who like the movie Dogma because they perceive it as being specifically anti-Catholic, not anti-Christian. So, the Bible loves hate and basic human immorality. Oh yeah, dude. The Bible hates the idea of humans having enjoyable lives that they want to be a part of. The Bible advocates for people not to be so worried about the life that they're going through right now, that everything's going to be avenged in heaven. There's a reason why so many atheist black advocates and activists over the years have called Christianity a slave religion. There's a reason why Nietzsche called it a slave religion. Because it is. It's a religion meant to... it is a religion meant to induce servility in an oppressed people. Well, in The Whale, the young man tries to save the main character. He was a missionary. See, that almost reads like it's anti-religious, though, right? Because ultimately the big problem in The Whale, from what I remember, is it's all to do with his daughter and like the lack of relationship that he has with his daughter. And that, from what I can remember, does not come down to him being gay. I need to rewatch the movie, though, clearly. A lot of religious people are conservative, and conservatives seem to have this weird pathology where they don't possess media literacy. Oh, yeah. I mean, media literacy is a problem for a lot of different types of people. It's not just a conservative problem, but it is a problem that happens way more often. Or, here, let me put it this way. I think if you are a person who is media illiterate, like completely media illiterate, you are way more likely to become conservative if you become political than to become lefty. It doesn't mean that there are media illiterate leftists. There are, but they're a lot fewer in number because I feel like the more you understand the things you watch and the things you read, and the more you read in general, the more likely you are to go to the left politically. And I think the less you're able to read between the lines and see how spin is being used, the less you think about these things, and the less you care about how you're being manipulated, the more likely you are to be manipulated into causes that you would not otherwise agree with. that older versions of you might not have agreed with. His partner committed suicide because his deeply religious parents disowned him. Yeah, that movie is anti-religious. That's how I read it. But like I said, I'm going to have to rewatch it. I feel like you guys are trying to inform me about it, like, secondhand, so I can have a good opinion, but I really just need to rewatch it. It does sound like it's got, like, some religious criticism in there, if anything. Phoebe, I got in an argument earlier with someone on Ignore Stream, shockingly enough. Oh, damn. Got in an argument with some trolls over there. Damn. Were they triggered by your very presence the way people are sometimes when I pop into a stream? People will get triggered just literally by me being there in chat sometimes. Whether it's on Ignore Stream or random other YouTubers who do the vertical thing. People are either like, oh, hi, Phoebe, or they're like, oh, this fucker. But people be knowing me, and that's the thing I like. No, one of his mods? Oh, damn. That's crazy. The ending confuses me where he dies and then you get a white light. What is your interpretation of the ending? I think it is appropriating Christian imagery to imply a final act of salvation, basically. Or like a final act of absolution. Like he's dying, but he's dying at peace. Relative peace. I'm really gonna have to rewatch that movie though. Yeah, what was the argument about? This guy was complaining about women hating men like they haven't been killing us for centuries. Oh, gotcha. MRA shit. Even Brett Keane recognized that this is a problem back in the day. Even Brett Keane. Sorry God, I seen the news, I watched TV. Babies in dumpsters, mothers on crack, men beating women. Something, something. The pastor passed the bowl for money. Yeah, it's always weird to me when someone, like, wants to kind of flip the dynamic and act like it's women. Like, women have every right to hate men. I don't think they do, by the way, for the record. I don't think, like, the average woman hates men as a rule. I don't even think the average feminist hates men as a rule. I don't even know if the, like, average fourth-wave feminist hates men as a rule. But even if they did, I feel like they have a right to, because it's like oppressor versus oppressed dynamic type shit. The fact of it is, like, whatever negative feelings women may have towards men, in whatever degree that does or does not exist, would be a consequence of patriarchy. It would be a consequence of women being, like, basically, not perpetually, because it's not like it's, like, there were many matriarchal societies throughout human existence. You know, it's just been like a few different lines of civilization that have blotted that out. Right, and they happen to be some of the most dominant societies right now. So, like, just so we're clear about the power dynamic, it's still a widespread problem. But the idea that it can never be any other way is ludicrous. And any negative feelings that women, like, on an individual level, might have towards men, like, as a general concept, would be a result of how they've been mistreated by patriarchal systems and standards and norms. So it's like, ultimately, like, the issue is still patriarchal ass men. And not every man is going to be that way, but like, if you need that explained to you every single time the issue of feminism comes up, or the issue of women's rights comes up, or whatever, like, it starts to become suspect at a certain point. I don't think anyone should blindly hate, but misandry typically just hurts your feelings. Misogyny gets you murdered. Yeah, that's another really good point. Yeah, very, very much so, yeah. Very, very rarely do misandrists, like, kill anybody. Like, yeah, there have been a few. Okay, I get it. Valerie Solanas exists. Everybody knows about her, but, like, you know, there aren't that many violent feminists out there. There just aren't. Like, the statistics back that up. Feminists, like every other leftist group, are less likely than any given right-wing group to commit politically motivated violence, or, you know, violence in general, or, you know, like secular humanists and, you know, the adjacent mentalities. We tend to be less violent people. Horror stories. I've heard complete and utter lack of shit being given by most other men. Yeah, I mean, that's why I talk about this as a trans woman, is because I think it needs to be talked about by as many different types of people as possible. Like, why there's so many of the issues that, like, third wave feminism was bringing up, so much of the philosophical work that has been done since the 60s and 70s, like, it's important to understand how far that has brought us in our understanding of these dynamics, and how to fight back against them and make a better world. Did Brett have a heart attack before? Not that I'm aware of. Why, is this lion ass claiming he's had one now? You can't believe Brett on a goddamn thing. Brett made a video or a podcast or a recording or whatever saying he wasn't going to do any more videos about the drunken peasants and shit. I'm pretty sure it's already gone and deleted. And he's already started making more videos about them. Already, like he cannot break himself. Literally, he can do nothing else. It is so strange to me how little that guy has changed. Even the way he sets up his, like, thumbnails and the way he has, like, his video set up and shit, it looks exactly the way it did back in 2012, 2015, 2018, 2021. It, like, it never changes. The thing that you're supposed to look at, the little window, is going to be, like, a third of the screen, and the other 2/3 of the screen is going to be needless, surreptitious layout shit. Bullshit about how to find Brett on a million different platforms nobody listens to him on. Advertisements for his PayPal and shit that you know nobody's fucking donating anything to. And I just don't... I don't see how he doesn't get how... If it hasn't worked in all this time, what on earth makes him think it's eventually going to work at some point in the future? I just don't understand that mentality. His defense was he saw a video about a woman who killed her son for money, a singular woman. Oh, okay. So a singular woman went crazy and did some, like, violent shit. And that means that, like, women hate men. Dude, people are just desperate to have a hot take these days. People are just desperate to have a hot take, and they are so infected by all of these weird demagogues that are, like, teaching them to view everything as, like, a critical issue that they have to think about in terms of, like, broader systems. And I'm talking about people on the right, by the way. People on the left are usually pretty good about differentiating between what is a broader trend, or, like, what is representative of a broader trend, or what may be representative of a broader trend, and what is, like, just a fucking crazy person doing some crazy person shit. But people on the right genuinely want you to believe that every time a white person gets killed by a black person, or a man gets killed by a woman, it's because, black people are inherently violent, or because women are hateful towards men, right? And, like, that's not how anything works. Like, everything needs to be examined on its own, and then you make a comparative model based on a big aggregate of data. Okay, let me read the other stuff you said, too. This shirt is really hard to read my chat through. Okay, then we pivoted to familicide. He did not know who he was talking to. Oh, shit, yeah. I don't think anyone should blindly hate, but misandry typically just hurts your feelings. Women, misogyny gets women murdered. Yes, 100%. Matt gets 5 lashings for distracting Phoebe with keenology during my important conversation. You have to read the other stuff I said too. Okay, I think I read everything. You pivoted to familicide. Yeah, no. So I'm excited to see what happened next. Yes, and yeah. Why are you distracting me with fucking keenology, Matt? You bastard. It's just because Paul won't answer his keenology questions anymore. It seems like maybe one of my messages isn't showing. Okie dokie, try retyping it. YouTube itself will filter shit out for some reason sometimes. But yeah, try retyping it if you can. You might have to sound something out. One thing you can do is copy paste, or like copy the message before you hit send. That way you can paste it and then modify different parts that you think might be hitting the filter. That's what I do. I have to take my mic off and put it back in the case because I got the phone on my charger. I said the hatred men have for women goes so deep that it includes familicide. Oh, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, the hatred men have for women goes so deep that it includes familicide. Yeah, and you could cite, it's funny, he wants to use that anecdotal example, but I instantly thought up an anecdotal example that proves your point, which is Chris Watts. Chris Watts murdered his whole fucking family and acted like, basically like he didn't give a shit, more or less. Was acting so weird throughout the whole fucking exchange with the cops there and everything. And he was prosecuted for that. But that familicide was, like, at least, like, I think that the, dehumanizing view of women that, our, like, that the patriarchal attitudes of our society foster is at least partly to blame in that familicide. Because he viewed his wife as disposable, probably all women as more or less disposable, that can be traded in and out, and he viewed his children as an extension of her and her grip on his life or whatever. So, like, if that motherfucker wants to get anecdotal, we can get anecdotal. Men committed primarily for revenge against their spouses and financial strain. Yeah, financial gain. Also for, they'll also do it to try and get a clean break. to like go run away with their mistress or their other partner or whatever they're having an affair with. Like, that's what happened in Chris Watts' case. It was also financial gain, but you know, he had this whole other life lined out that he was planning on going and living like nothing ever happened after his wife and kids were murdered by him. I don't believe that, Matt. I'm sorry. I'm not going to ennoble that comment with a read. I don't. I love you, Matt, but I don't agree with that a bit. I think Paul's just going through a low period, and I think it happens to the best of us. And I think he'll be right back at it probably when autumn starts to gear up. Trust me, I think the midterms are going to elicit some pretty interesting fights with the chat and Paul rants and shit. I can feel it coming on. I can feel it in the air tonight. I don't think that's true. And there's been periods of time when Paul's been, you know, even less social and out there and with it than he is now. Remember back in, what was it, early 2021? Or, I can't remember what time period it was. I think it was early 2021, or maybe early 2022. But there was this period of time where Paul did this stream. Might have been early 2023, actually, maybe. Maybe it was early 2023. Paul did this stream when the Dune movie came out. So it was after that. He did a stream, and he didn't stream again on his the Poltergeist channel for like a year after that. But he did this ideology just called, like, Disappointed or something. And it was like the darkest... It was like a haunting stream. And then he just didn't stream on his own for like a year after that. And he had kind of similar energy to what he's got now. You know, not similar, actually, it was probably worse. So I think he'll be back. I just think people go through fucking phases and stages. I do the same shit. I will go through time periods where I'm not very entertaining for you guys, and where it's like pulling teeth for me to even sit through one of these, and then I'm back eventually, and I think he'll be back soon. Yeah, Paul has seasonal affective disorder in the summer, according to Paul himself. Yeah, and I genuinely believe that. If you've watched Paul long enough, you can tell. Paul is miserable in the summer, no matter where he's at. Alright, now I'm going to read what Taylor said. He said, what I was saying isn't true. I said 95%-ish of these crimes are men. So are you a fucking loser who lies? And this guy said he would sue me for defamation for calling him a liar. I said, crybaby bitch, I'll send you my address or the paper service. You're gonna sue me because I called you a liar at a YouTube comment? Bro's lawyer will laugh at him. Yeah, that's literally not grounds for a defamation case. That's not grounds for a libel case. That's not grounds for shit. Motherfucker, you're really gonna say that in an era where everybody just watched Ethan Klein's career fucking crash and burn in the wake of him trying to sue his trolls that actually were defaming him? Get real. The internet has created just like an atmosphere of unreality in the minds of a lot of people. I don't know what to do about it, Taylor. People just ain't living in the same world me and you and everybody else in this fucking chat is living in. I'm becoming increasingly more convinced of that by the day. There are two realities, and one of them reflects what is real, testable, provable, verifiable, statistically backed, and one of them is being formulated, codified, created from scratch, from nothing, from less than scratch, from turds, from garbage, being cobbled together. by a cadre of loosely aligned, self-contradictory, in many cases, wealthy pricks. And there are so many people that are getting caught up in their propaganda. And that person you argued with is one of them. Just another lost soul. I had to be lying about him lying for it to get even off the ground. Yeah. Literally. Yeah, you have to be lying for him to, in order, like, defamation, it requires you to tell a lie, and for you to know that it is a lie, right? That's why it's almost never prosecuted in this country. That's why almost nobody ever gets in trouble for it, because, like, it's very easy to prove that something is a lie, but how do you prove that somebody knew that it was a lie? Like, pretty much there is no way unless you can get a verifiable text of them saying, oh shit, yeah, I don't believe in this shit. Like Tucker Carlson, for example. I think that Tucker Carlson could legitimately be sued by tons of people for defamation. I just think that not enough people have seen the clip of him. But there's this clip of Tucker Carlson where he says, in fact, I'll look it up. God damn it, I can't find it. This is so fucking annoying. I'm gonna fucking laugh as if he's had this shit scrubbed from the internet. My boy Kyle has it. Oh, thank you, Kyle. I could kiss you right on the mouth.
Really messed up here.
Oh my God,
Carlson
yes.
had a moment of raw honesty. Where he
Okay.
really let it all slip.
Okay, hold on. Okay, I found it. Okay.
I lie.
Okay. Hold on. Okay, I found it. Yes. Okay, so it's a clip from Dave Rubin and Tucker Carlson talking on the Rubin Report, which is why nobody knows about it. But here we go.
Expose the lies. This isn't 20 years ago when you were on CNN. And we couldn't expose things. We can expose it now and they still do it.
Well, I guess I would ask myself, like, I mean, I lie. If I'm really cornered or something, I lie. I really try not to. I try never to lie on TV. I just don't, I don't like lying. I certainly do it, out of weakness or whatever. But just...
Okay, so with that quote out there, Tucker Carlson could actually probably legitimately be sued and lose for defamation. But he's like one of the few people I can think about. Like even Donald Trump, I don't know if he could get sued for defamation and lose for a lot of things. I think maybe he was for I think some of those election denial things. I think he actually was, but like you have to have like such a tremendous amount of evidence, you know. If you tried to prosecute Trump, for example, for every lie he's told, even if it was defamatory or something, it would be a nightmare trying to prove every instance of it was a knowing lie. Yeah, and I just can't believe that clip exists to this day. Ignar said to tell you hi. Hey, that's cool. Tell Ignar I said hi. That looks good, Phoebe. I can taste it through the screen. What looks good? What looks good? Oh, were you talking about my drink? Ew, Dave, I know, right? Yeah, a lot of people never grow into adults. Yeah, for sure. Also, you said, it's weird, I don't think I talk to people in real life any differently than I talk to them online, or vice versa. I try to be the same way. I don't know. Maybe Taylor can tell you guys how authentic I am. I try to be myself here to the best of my ability. If not, maybe a bit more entertaining than I otherwise would be. But I like to think that I do the same kind of thing. Although I think I am probably better spoken through text. I think I've got a better command of the language when I'm writing than I do when I'm speaking. By the way, we're probably only going to be going live for 10 more minutes, so any last questions, any last super chats, any last gifted memberships or anything like that you want to get in, make sure you get them in now before we go here in the next 10. Next 10 to 15 or so. I'm definitely better spoken through text, yeah. Yeah, I relate. I relate heavy. The McConnell epic continues. Is he dead? Is he alive? Call it now, Phoebe. You must. I'm calling it now. Mitch McConnell is dead. I don't buy all this shit. I think, like, he's almost certainly got to be passed at this point. Andy Bashir is literally calling on Mitch McConnell himself. Like, give us a full and thorough update on your health. Or, like, I think he said he's going to invoke something. Let me look it up. He's issued an ultimatum to Senator Mitch McConnell demanding that the 84 senator provide verbal proof of his capacity to serve or resign following a prolonged 7-week hospitalization. Yes. Yes. Finally, a Democrat doing something useful. Said he should resign if he can't directly and verbally address the people of Kentucky with proof of your capacity to serve. Escalating pressure on the former Republican Senate leader as he continues to recover from a fall that left him hospitalized well over a month ago. During that time, you've cast 0 votes, engaged in no official activities aside from 2 photos and corresponding statements, have made no efforts to communicate with your Kentucky constituents or the nation. 84 is how old this dude is. Fucking McConnell. God damn, he's so old. The 7-term fucking senator who will retire in January said in a July 12th statement to constituents he plans to return to the Senate. He also shared that he has dealt with a mild case of pneumonia while in the hospital. McConnell has maintained a strenuous course of blah 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 blah. I'm not gonna fucking... I don't even buy it, dude. So what? His physician released a statement. Man, I don't... Like, can you believe that? Like, what? A doctor can't be paid off? A doctor can't be convinced to give bad information? On Monday, he raised the stakes, urging Senate Majority Leader John Thune to investigate McConnell's condition if you are unwilling to voluntarily show that you still have the capacity to serve. So it doesn't seem like he's going to be able to do something that, like, actually forces McConnell to do it or to drop out and stop serving, but I mean,
my ability.
Sorry, I wanted to watch those 2 shorts real quick so I could or put them in my history real quick. Anyway, it doesn't seem like Andy Bashir is going to be able to do anything directly that like limits McConnell's abilities in the Senate or that forces him to resign, but it is nice to be getting this kind of pressure. One would have to imagine that this is the type of pressure most politicians wouldn't be able to not bend to. Even Feinstein's final ghoul form was wheeled into the Senate to make an appearance, even though her aides were doing everything. Yeah, literally. Even her. Even fucking, even Dianne Feinstein, who rotted into the coffin while in office, basically, was wheeled, like, even she was weekend Bernied out to the Senate floor to make an appearance. So if they can do that with Senator Feinstein, why can't they do that with Senator McConnell? Maybe the ghost of Charlie Kirk can inform us if he's on the other side. Yeah, that'd be nice. Do you think we should do a seance? You think we should try and get in contact? I have thought about doing a stream that I title "Doing a Live Seance to Contact Deceased Senator Mitch McConnell," and then putting like a satire warning somewhere. Today, we will be attempting to contact deceased Senator Mitch McConnell. Everyone gather around. Each of us will place our hand upon the pendulum. I could make this work. If you say Kirk's name 3 times in a mirror and spin around, some say he shows up to talk about the Bible. Oh, that's a weird ghost. That'd be funny if one day we were able to prove that ghosts were real, and we were actually able to like capture some of the shit that they're saying, maybe it turns out that just only certain people. Wouldn't it be ironic if only schizophrenics are receptive to the voices of ghosts? Wouldn't that be ironic? Anyway, that'd be like an M. Night Shyamalan style twist to the logic of the world. I don't think that's true. I'm just postulating, but you know, being funny. Satire. Anyway, if we were able to like figure out what they were saying, it would be hilarious if there were like a bunch of ghost preachers because they like believed in the wrong faith, or they were faithful in the first place and that made them do horrible, cruel things. Because, you know, it'd be one thing to prove ghosts, it'd be another thing to explain where the fuck they come from. What the twist? I know, right? Turns out you weren't crazy, you were just hearing ghosts the whole time. Sorry we doubted you. Suddenly, millions of schizophrenics are finding themselves employed in the newly created Department of Ghastly Defense. The National Apparition League. The poltergeist, the poltergeist polity. I'd never sleep again if that was true. It'd be like covered in invisible shit, knowing you are covered in shit. We already have organisms crawling on us, dude. Okay. My old road dog Adam was cool in a lot of ways, but one of the ways in which they were a little bit, you know, a little bit nutty, and I can't really blame them for it, you know, not talking shit, but they could not stand to hear any kind of discussion of this type, or have bugs on them ever, because they dealt with like a perpetual sensation that was at times very easy to ignore and sometimes impossible to ignore, of like bugs crawling on them. And the way they explained it, it was a symptom of long-term meth abuse. They were sober by the time I knew them, but that was one of those things that just kind of remained changed about the way their brain was wired, I guess. And dude, I can't imagine that, because like knowing that there are like organisms crawling all over me right now does not bother me. Maybe it would if I were like on acid or mushrooms. Like maybe you could convince me to be bothered by it, but you know. Braiding my bush, nice. Bush is out for Charlie Kirk. Hell yeah. Have you ever heard Jordan Peterson talk about how he once had a dream about his grandma's bush, and how she tried to seduce him with it and encouraged him to paint with it like it's a paintbrush? Yeah. Jordan Peterson's weird. Why is it the people on meth are always itching? I don't know the exact, like, physiochemical reason for it, to be honest with you. I don't know exactly why. It's got something to do with the fact that it's a stimulant, and the fact that it affects people who don't have a brain wired to be... Like, there are some people, like, who are wired such that drugs like that provide some kind of leveling effect for them. But many people are not, and those who are not that use them to get like a stimulant effect tend to have a number of negative side effects that are associated with like weird feelings and physical tics and shit like that. No, it's not cap, Matt. Yes, I know. I'm kind of just saying, well, it happens because it happens. But I'm just, like, I don't know why exactly it happens. I got as close as I could to offering a more nuanced explanation. Meth makes you hallucinate also. Yeah, like, it makes you hallucinate physical sensations. It makes you hallucinate visually in some cases. Sometimes people will mix meth with shit that you really shouldn't be mixing it with, and that will elicit negative side effects that can sometimes, if that experience is repeated too many times, it can sometimes change how a person interacts with certain aspects of their world or their life. Yeah, they don't all see bugs. False sensory perceptions due to altered dopamine levels and central nervous system. Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. There probably is a more complex explanation where, like, specific chemicals are being altered in specific ways and certain pathways are opened up and all this other shit. I'm sure, like, a neurobiologist could explain it at a deeper level, but I feel like, as far as two people that aren't doctors, that's basically as good an explanation as we're going to get as what you just gave. Not the meth thing, the Peterson thing. What did I say about him? I don't even remember. Oh, I said weird. Oh. Yeah, dude. Dude, Matt, if you haven't watched it and you're, like, even if you're not a patron, I think it's available for free now. Watch the Jordan Peterson gauntlet that DFF did. Because they cover it on there. I don't know where else you'd find it, but I know you can find it on there. And it is insane, yes. Jordan Peterson said everything I just said he said. And worse. It was fucking insane. I've never in my life had a dream like that. Can also be caused by the dehydration from heavy perspiration, and it changes the composition of your sweat to dehydrate the skin. When the sweat dries, it itches. Ah, yes. That also helps to explain it. I knew it was more complicated than just, well, it fucks up their brains, I really do feel like, and this is kind of one of the last thoughts we'll go into before I start getting off here, I feel like one of the things we really need to do, commensurate with the legalization and regulation of drugs and the, treating them with a more rehabilitative mindset, is we really need to, like, not just be more thorough in the way we talk about the way drugs affect people and, like, the mechanisms by which they affect people, but I feel like more research needs to be done into it. Like, tons more research needs to be done into that shit. So that they're, like, more effective ways to treat people. God damn, there's so many cat hairs in this. Holy shit. What the fuck? His grandma painting with her brush, that is insane. Yep. Very insane. Very insane. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get off here, guys, because it is hot as fucking balls and I'm burning up. So, bye, y'all. I will see y'all later. Thank you for hanging out with me. Peace.